Do you remember the heartwarming stories of the Walton family? The Waltons, 1972 to 1981, was more than just a TV series. It was a symbol of love, resilience, and family values that touched the hearts of millions across generations. But have you ever wondered what happened to the beloved cast after the show ended? In this video, we take a nostalgic journey back in time and reveal the incredible transformations of the actors, then and now, in 2025. Some continued to shine on screen, others stepped away from the spotlight to live quiet lives. Get ready to be surprised, inspired, and maybe even a little emotional as we revisit the faces that made the Waltons a timeless classic. John Wamsley, who portrayed Jason Walton, the musically gifted and compassionate middle son, was just 16 when the show began in 1972. His role earned him early fame, but the post-Waltons years were riddled with personal misfortune. Though he pursued music passionately, his solo career never found commercial success, leaving him struggling with debt and depression. He married British actress Lisa Harrison, who also appeared on The Waltons, and they had one daughter, Fiona. The marriage, however, was plagued by financial stress and ended in divorce after 15 years. He later remarried, but his second marriage was short-lived and ended following a difficult battle with alcoholism. John's life was marked by 5 notable tragedies: the collapse of his music career, 2 divorces, a painful estrangement from his daughter, a battle with throat cancer, and years of isolation. Now 69, he lives modestly in a small cabin in Oregon with few visitors and a net worth of around $80,000. He teaches music online to make ends meet, rarely appearing in public. Despite his kindness and talent, fame brought him little lasting happiness. Mary Beth McDonell, who played Erin Walton, the sweet, loyal sister struggling for identity in a large family, was only 11 during the show's early years. While she continued acting after the Waltons, she never found the same recognition, and her career slowly faded. She married investment banker Rob Wickstrom, and they had a daughter named Sydney, but their marriage unraveled after her long struggle with lupus and body image issues related to early fame. They divorced in 2005. Mary Beth wrote a memoir detailing the harsh realities of child stardom, which alienated her from several former castmates. She endured 5 major personal tragedies: her health issues, public backlash over her memoir, the death of her father, a failed business venture in Arizona, and her daughter's estrangement in adulthood. Now 63, she lives alone in a small California town, her net worth estimated at $150,000. Though she occasionally publishes essays, she mostly avoids the public eye, struggling with both physical pain and emotional scars from a fame that never brought her peace. Eric Scott, who portrayed the driven and hot-headed Ben Walton, was 14 when the show aired. Known for his ambition and stubborn nature on screen, Eric transitioned away from acting after the Waltons, unable to find stable work in Hollywood. He started a parcel delivery business in California, which eventually became his main source of income. He married actress Teresa Fargo, but she tragically died of leukemia just 2 years later. He remarried and had 3 children, Emily, Jack, and Brandon, but the pressure of running a business and unresolved grief led to a bitter divorce. He has faced 5 key personal tragedies: the loss of his first wife, a fire that destroyed his business headquarters, financial ruin in 2009, a strained relationship with his eldest son, and a DUI arrest that briefly landed him in jail. Now 66, Eric lives in a modest suburban home, trying to rebuild his delivery company. His net worth is estimated around $120,000. Though he attends Walton's reunions, he avoids interviews and prefers a quiet life far from the spotlight that once defined his youth. Camille Codeler, who played the youngest Walton sibling, Elizabeth, brought warmth and wide-eyed curiosity to the role at just 7 years old. After the Waltons, she stepped away from acting and became a teacher and later a school principal. Though her professional life and education was admirable, her personal life was riddled with pain. She married environmental scientist Mark Thomas and had 2 children, Liam and Zoe, but their marriage ended after a bitter custody battle fueled by her long working hours and his frequent overseas assignments. Her daughter Zoe later distanced herself completely, citing emotional neglect. Cammie's 5 major life tragedies include the collapse of her marriage, a traumatic miscarriage between her 2 children, the closure of the charter school she founded, a breast cancer diagnosis in her 40s, and estrangement from her siblings over family inheritance issues. Now 59, she lives in a small apartment in Northern California. Her net worth is around $90,000, mostly tied up in retirement savings. Despite years of hardship, she still advocates for education reform but avoids all mention of her acting past, calling it a ghost I can't shake. Judy Norton portrayed Mary Ellen Walton, the determined and often headstrong eldest daughter. At 14 during the show's premiere, Judy carried her character's independence into her real life. After the Waltons, she tried to reinvent herself, famously posing nude for Playboy in 1985 to break free from her child star image, an act that alienated much of her fan base. She married 4 times. Her first 2 marriages, including one to musician Randy Apostle, ended in divorce due to infidelity and professional jealousy. She had 1 son, Devin, but lost custody during a turbulent legal battle after her 3rd divorce. Her 5 major life tragedies include the early end of her first marriage, public backlash from her Playboy spread, her son's decision to live with his father full-time, a failed stage play she wrote and directed that bankrupted her production company, and being diagnosed with bipolar disorder in her 50s. Now 67, Judy writes and directs community theater, living in a rental house in Colorado with an estimated net worth of just $75,000. Despite everything, she maintains a defiant spirit and remains proud of her resilience. David W. Harper, who played the mechanically inclined dreamer Jim Bob Walton, was just 11 years old in 1972. After the Waltons, Harper struggled to find footing in either acting or everyday life. He never married, and his reclusive lifestyle sparked concern among fans and former colleagues. A devoutly religious man, he withdrew from Hollywood completely in the late 90s and refused all reunion appearances after a breakdown in 2003. Harper's 5 great personal tragedies include the death of both parents in quick succession, a house fire that destroyed nearly all his belongings, a brief stint of homelessness, an undiagnosed mental health condition likely tied to anxiety, and the suicide of his closest friend from childhood. Now 63, he lives alone in a government-subsidized apartment in Los Angeles. His estimated net worth is under $30,000. Once a vibrant, inventive boy on screen, Harper now lives a life shrouded in solitude, rarely answering his phone and keeping photographs from the Waltons turned face down in drawers. Earl Hamner Jr., the narrator and creator of The Waltons, was 49 when the series began. His warm voice and heartfelt storytelling were the soul of the show, drawing from his own upbringing in rural Virginia. Though The Waltons brought him critical acclaim, his post-series career was frustratingly uneven. Several projects he pitched were rejected by studios, and he grew disillusioned with the industry. He married Jane Martin, and they had 2 children, Scott and Caroline. While their marriage lasted, it was far from peaceful, strained by Hamner's obsessive work ethic and long absences. He suffered 5 major tragedies: a bitter lawsuit over writing credits on a failed series, his son Scott's battle with drug addiction, a near-fatal stroke in 1998, the collapse of his production company in the 1990s, and a painful rift with his siblings over the family's portrayal on the show. Earl passed away on March 24, 2016, at the age of 92 from cancer. Despite his emotional wounds, he was deeply respected. At his passing, his estate was estimated at $1.5 million, much of it tied to syndication rights and a modest home in Studio City. Ralph Waite, who portrayed the stoic and dependable John Walton Sr., was 44 when he stepped into the role of the devoted father figure. Off-screen, Waite was a complex man haunted by personal demons. He battled alcoholism for much of his adult life and lost custody of his 3 daughters, Kathleen, Suzanne, and Sharon, after a bitter divorce from his first wife, Beverly. A second marriage ended in 1981, and a third in 1989. Following the Waltons, Waite's acting career wavered, forcing him into odd jobs between parts. His 5 greatest life tragedies included the death of his eldest daughter Sharon from leukemia at age 9, the collapse of 2 marriages, a failed run for Congress, a relapse into alcohol abuse in the 1990s, and living alone in his final years. Despite these hardships, he found solace in religion, becoming a lay minister. He died on February 13, 2014, at the age of 85 due to age-related illness. His estate was modest, estimated around $250,000, and he was buried quietly with few attending the service. Joe Connley, who played the affable and ever-patient Ike Godsey, was 44 when he joined the cast. Though beloved for his role as the general store owner, Connley faced a lifetime of quiet struggles. After the Waltons, acting roles became scarce, and he turned to real estate to support his family. He married Louise Tischer, with whom he had 4 children, Kevin, Colleen, Chris, and Julie, but their family life was far from idyllic. His long work hours and emotional detachment caused years of tension, leading to estrangement from 2 of his children. 5 notable tragedies marked his life: his son Kevin's imprisonment for drug trafficking, the foreclosure of his home during the 2008 recession, the failure of his autobiography to sell, 2 heart surgeries, and being largely forgotten by Hollywood. He passed away on July 7, 2013, at the age of 85 from complications of dementia. His net worth at the time of his death was approximately $400,000, mostly tied to property. Despite his sunny persona on screen, Joe's final years were spent in quiet decline in a care facility far from the limelight. Michael Learned, who portrayed Olivia Walton, the nurturing matriarch of the Walton family, was just 33 when the show began. Though she embodied strength and compassion on screen, her real life was far more tumultuous. Learned struggled with alcoholism during the early years of the show and entered rehab in the late 1970s after multiple interventions. She married 4 times, first to actor Peter Donat, with whom she had 3 sons, Caleb, Christopher, and Lucas. That marriage ended in divorce, as did her second and third marriages, each strained by Learned's emotional instability and career demands. Her final marriage, to lawyer John Doherty, provided some stability but was marked by long separations. 5 of her greatest personal tragedies include the dissolution of her first marriage, being estranged from her middle son for over a decade, a cancer scare in her 60s, a fall on stage that left her with permanent nerve damage, and intense loneliness in later years. Now 86, she lives in a modest home in California and continues occasional acting work. Her estimated net worth is $500,000, much of it from rerun royalties. Despite the heartaches, she remains proud of her work and the emotional legacy of the Waltons. Richard Thomas, who portrayed John Boy Walton, was 21 when he took on the role of the thoughtful eldest son and aspiring writer. With piercing intelligence and emotional depth, he became the heart of the series. However, Thomas's post-Waltons journey was riddled with hardship. His first marriage to Alma Gonzalez ended in divorce after 18 years and 4 children, including triplets Brooke, Kendra, and Rachel, and son Richard Jr., following his wife's discovery of his affair with a co-star. He later remarried but faced further strife when his second wife struggled with mental illness. 5 major tragedies shaped his life: losing a daughter to suicide, suffering from chronic back pain that ended his theater work, narrowly surviving a plane crash in 1997, bankruptcy after a failed production company, and a long battle with depression. Now 74, he continues acting but has retreated from the public eye, preferring low-profile roles. His estimated net worth is $1 million, a far cry from earlier years. Despite the pain, Thomas channels his sorrow into his performances, which remain quietly powerful. Ronnie Clare Edwards, who portrayed Beth Godsey, brought layers of complexity and humor to the character of Ike's prim and dramatic wife. She was 43 when she joined the Waltons in 1975, and her portrayal won her praise but led to typecasting that stifled her career. Never married, Edwards lived a solitary life, often describing herself as too peculiar for romance. She suffered from agoraphobia and rarely left her home in Dallas in her later years. Her 5 greatest life tragedies included the loss of her childhood home to a fire, a long-term struggle with chronic pain from a car accident in the 1980s, the suicide of her best friend, being rejected from multiple stage productions due to ageism, and a slow battle with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD. Ronnie passed away on June 14, 2016, at the age of 83 from complications of COPD. Her estate was modest, estimated at $300,000, mostly from her published writings and the sale of her historic home. She was remembered for her wit, honesty, and a fierce independence that often came at the cost of companionship. Mary Jackson, who portrayed the gentle and sentimental Emily Baldwin, was 66 when The Waltons premiered. On screen, she was one half of the endearing Baldwin sisters, known for their homemade recipe and wistful nostalgia. Off-screen, however, Mary's life was marked by loneliness and unfulfilled dreams. She never married, citing early heartbreak after a fiancé left her just days before their wedding. She adopted a son, Peter, but their relationship deteriorated in his teenage years due to behavioral issues and later incarceration. Her 5 major life tragedies included the death of her younger sister in a car accident, her son's estrangement, and eventual disappearance, a brief period of homelessness in the 1950s, repeated rejections from Broadway roles due to her age, and the devastating loss of her lifelong friend and neighbor in a house fire. Despite a few small roles after The Waltons, her acting career ended in quiet obscurity. Mary Jackson passed away on December 10, 2005, at the age of 95 from natural causes. She left behind an estate worth an estimated $250,000, most of which went to a charitable trust supporting women in the arts. Her final years were spent in a nursing home, surrounded more by memories than by family. Helen Cleb, who portrayed the refined and occasionally sharp-witted Mamie Baldwin, was 64 when she joined the Waltons as Emily's older sister. A veteran of stage and radio, Cleb brought elegance and pathos to her role, but the show marked the peak of her career. She had been married once to journalist Charles Warren, but he died of a heart attack just 3 years into their union. They had one daughter, Eliza, who later disowned Cleb after a dispute over inheritance money. This rift haunted Helen until her death. Her 5 life tragedies included the early loss of her husband, estrangement from her daughter, a car crash that left her with a permanent limp, years of financial instability during the 1960s, and being placed under conservatorship in her final years against her will. After the Waltons, Cleb struggled to find meaningful work and slowly slipped into isolation. She passed away on December 28, 2003, at the age of 96 from complications related to pneumonia. Her estate, consisting mainly of personal belongings and a modest savings account, was valued at approximately $100,000. She was buried in an unmarked grave per her wishes, hoping to be remembered only through her work. Who is your favorite character from the Waltons? How does it feel knowing that some of the actors are no longer with us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you for your support.